presents Creating Your Seat at the Table with your host, Ashley Little, as she welcomes her guest to the table.
Welcome to Creating Your Seat at the Table. I am your host, Ashley Little. A little bit about myself: corporate professional by day, entrepreneur by night, 5-time best-selling author, CEO and founder of Ashley Little Enterprises, LLC, owner and creator of Creative Broadcasting, and founder and owner of Talk Radio and TV Network, LLC. Tonight, we have an amazing special VIP guest by the name of Nikki Woods. A little bit about her. Nikki Woods has more than 20 years of experience as an on-air personality and senior producer of The Tom Joyner Show, the most successful syndicated urban radio show in history. Woods is also the CEO of Nikki Woods Media, a corporation that works with entrepreneurs and influencers who want to grow their business to 6+ figures by leveraging the media and monetizing their expertise. To her credit, Nikki has written 6 best-selling books, been featured by CNN, Huffington Post, Black Enterprise, the New York Times, and more. She positioned her students and clients to be seen by over 873 million people and generated over 8 figures in sales from the media, mentored more than 500 authors to best-selling status. Nikki is a trendsetter, a social media influencer, author, blogger, motivational speaker, and mom. With her widespread and diverse social platform, Nikki continually empowers, educates, and enlightens those who are looking to impact the world with their message. Most importantly, Nikki is the mother of 2 teenage boys and 2 dogs who think they are teenage boys. Welcome to the table, the amazing, legendary Nikki Woods.
Well, thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it. I don't know if I got legendary quite yet, but I'm working on it.
Yes. So it's just an honor to have you at the table, Nikki. And I know our listeners are going to really gain some wisdom and knowledge tonight. So could you tell us more about you have 20 years of experience as an on-air personality. So tell us more about your amazing journey.
Well, it has been an interesting journey, to say the very least. I started out as a 5th grade teacher, believe it or not, and I recognized really early on that was not my calling in life. Like, that was not the gift God had given me. And so I decided just to do something different. And people are always like, well, why did you pick TV? Why did you pick radio? And I have no idea. But I'm glad I did. And so I ended up going back to school and getting a degree in broadcast journalism. I started out in television, and I did local sports, and then I went to ESPN, and then didn't like going in locker rooms all that much. They like to torment young women as they go in the locker rooms. But yeah, a friend of mine called, and he was doing radio in Boston, and he's like, my co-host, he was doing a morning show, he's like, my co-host is going on maternity leave, you want to come in, sit in for a week, and just hang out? And literally, that's what I did. It's like I went and I hung out, and it was the coolest experience ever, and I fell in love with radio, and that's what I've done, now for most of my career since. So radio to me is just really a more intimate way of communication. I mean, it takes out all the people aren't looking at you trying to check out your shoes, whether or not your hair is, right, or your makeup's all correct. And they really just can listen to what you're saying. And so I just fell in love with radio. And so I've been very, very fortunate to work with some great radio personalities and work in some great cities. And I just really, really loved, that part of my professional career.
Yes, you have, and you have done it with results and excellence, by the way.
Thank you. My daddy would be proud that you said that. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. And you were the senior producer of the Tom Joyner Show, the most successful syndicated urban radio show in history. Please tell listeners more about this amazing accomplishment. This is one of many, though. One of many.
Well, I don't know. I told Tom like a week after I joined the crew, I was like, I went from a 5th grade teacher back to a 5th grade teacher. It was like wrangling a bunch of, teenage boys every single day. Tom was probably, has been outside of my parents, has been probably one of the biggest influences, not only on my career, but in my life. I mean, he really is an example of deciding that you want to do something with excellence and to do it your own way. And so I learned so much from him, and I was really fortunate, to be in so many phenomenal situations It's like people ask, like kind of what the highlight of my career is, and I think, I was in Chicago when a young man from the South Side named Barack Obama decided he wanted to be a state senator. And so I was, really excited to interview him, and we had him on the air all the time. And, then shortly after I joined Tom, Senator Barack Obama decided he wanted to run for president. And so got to enjoy that journey and went to, 2 inaugurations and been to the White House, was able to take not only my children but my parents to the White House, and they were able to meet the president. And so, and all of that happened not just because of radio, but because of Tom. And so Tom, it just was just a phenomenal experience. Every single day it was just something new and different and bright. And so so it was really a great, great part of my career.
I love that. Amazing. And you always speak about, Nikki, teamwork and uplifting others a lot. So please tell listeners how teamwork and uplifting others have contributed to your successful career.
So I think that it's really, and I think sports are like a phenomenal thing, and I think anything that you have to do as a team really teaches you, one, it's not all about you, and two, how to work with others to achieve a common goal. So my entire career, I've been part of a team. I've been part of a morning show team or a sports team or something like that. It just really teaches you like how important every position is. And so it has taught me to compromise. It's taught me to negotiate. It's taught me to put my foot down when I think I need to put my foot down. But it really has been just a great way to learn how to, develop those relationships and communicate when you need to and rely on others, because I think a lot of us, especially black women, to be honest, just really think we need to just put our head down and get it done, and so we don't necessarily ask for help when we need it or rely on others to operate in their genius and excellence when it may not be our strength. And I think when you are a part of any team, that you learn that really quickly. And so I think that has always played to my benefit, because I can go into any situation now and play my role and not feel diminished in any way. But I can also demand my seat at the table when I need to. So it's taught me a lot of different things, and I've learned a lot of different skills that have been very valuable.
And I'm glad you shared that, because I know when I'm talking to people of high esteem like yourself, you all always talk about serving, right? And I know our listeners that are listening, that's part of the process, right? You have to serve, right, in order to get to that next level, to get to that level of success. So what are your thoughts on that, Nikki, with serving?
So I just had this conversation the other day. It's like I never want to enter any situation and not leave it better than I found it. I don't ever do anything halfway. I don't believe in 90%. It's just not the way I'm built. And so I tell people the stories and I got it from my dad. And so after I was with Tom for probably about a year, my parents came down and they visited the studio, and Tom was talking to my father, and, Tom was like, well, I really hope that, Nikki's enjoying her, her time with us, and that she's finding it valuable. He's like, is she doing her job? Are you finding her valuable? Like, is she putting in the work? And, I mean, it's just, and that's the way I was raised. I mean, to always just put in the work. And not to, and I always want to tell people not to diminish myself. So it's like a lot of times you have to work, and people find, if you're sacrificing, if you're staying up all night, if you, whatever, that if you work extra hard, that it makes you a better person. And it doesn't necessarily do that. So I think we got to work smarter, but I still think we have to put in the work, and we have to provide value. I mean, people pay you not for your time. They don't pay you for, any of that. They pay you for the value you provide and the transformation that you offer through whatever it is that you're doing. So they don't ever pay me to show up on the radio and talk. They pay me to impact lives. They don't pay me to provide media services. They pay me to get their messages out to people because they know it will change the world. And so people pay you for that transformation, but you can't just kind of show up and, half do it. I mean, you really have got to, as you said earlier, operate from a place of excellence. And I think when you're truly operating in your gift, no matter what it is, that you're always providing, service, that you're always in service and you're always doing what you were put on this earth to do. And that alone is value.
Yes, it is, and being valuable. I'm so glad you shine a light on that, to making sure you're bringing value to others. That's so important. So what is some advice you would give to listeners about the media industry, listeners who are wanting to continue to grow in the media industry?
So I think the great thing about where we are now with the media is that it's become more of a partnership between people who are in the media and people who want the media. So it's like when I first started, I mean, there were like all these gatekeepers in place, and at some point I was one of them, and it's like we granted access, to our platform. But with like social media and online internet shows and shows like this, I mean, it's like we're creating our own platforms. And so the media now is looking for people who are creating their own platform, sharing their expertise, operating from a place of service, and they want to partner with you because they realize that, while they still may have their own audience, there's this whole other audience that they get their news from Twitter. It's like they don't even watch news anymore. They learn what's going on in the world by being on social media. And so I think we count ourselves out because we think, Oprah would never be interested in me. But you don't know. It's like Oprah's trying to grow her audience too. It's like Tom's audience, when they hired me, they were literally dying off. He had been in radio 40 years when I joined the team. And so social media was a big part of why they brought me on, because I understood it, I was engaged in it, and I wanted to incorporate that in anything that I did. And so that was one of our main, strategies for keeping Tom relevant with social media. I mean, it's like you couldn't change the fact that he was, in radio for 40 years and he wasn't 20 anymore. I mean, you can't change it. So you have to figure out different ways to add that relevancy. So I think people think, I'm not a celebrity, I don't have 1 million followers. It doesn't matter. They're looking for people who are experts at what they do, who engage an audience, whether it's 5,000 or 10,000 or 5 million, and they want to add your audience to theirs. So it's now a partnership, and I think that gives us a place of power, to operate from, because we're no longer asking or, to grant us this thing. I mean, we're bringing something to the table, and so it really is a great space for people now who are looking to use the media.
So our listeners that are listening, continue to create your seat at the table, and you never know who's watching. Thank you for shining light on that, Nikki.
I just read a quote. It was so funny, and I want to say it was Maxine Waters that said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring in your own folding chair.
Yes.
So I got to tell Ashley that when I talk to her tonight.
I love it. Yes, bring your own chair, build your own table.
Come on now.
I love it. So what do you see a lot of growth? Do you see a lot of growth for Black women in the media industry in the next 5 years?
Oh, my gosh, yes. Because they no longer can control us. It's like even when I was in television, like they wanted to tell you what your hair was supposed to look like. God forbid if you were natural. Tamron Hall, I'm not sure if you know who she is, but she's a national TV personality. So we were in Chicago at the same time. And, Tamron and I had the same makeup artist, and we would argue because she was like the only person who knew how to put makeup on Black women, so that we didn't look crazy. And we wouldn't let anybody do our hair. And so it was a real problem, like with people wanting to control the image and quote unquote whitewash you so that you would be mainstream enough to be on the air. And now that is just not true. It's like people are looking for the unique. People are looking for the different. People are looking for those who really own who they are and show up. And that's a different trend we're seeing in everything, even social media. It's like people can tell, the fake accounts and the accounts who are run by somebody else and people who are not really showing up as who they are. And so it really is important to kind of own it. I was reading a book the other day that said, like, when you believe that you are enough, everybody else has no choice but to believe it. Like, you don't give them any options. And so when you really own who you are, whatever that looks like, that's it. I mean, it's like Oprah, for years got so much hate because of her, her weight, because she wasn't this size 2, Barbie doll looking, media personality. And it's just so unfortunate, that people can't accept, genius no matter what kind of package it comes in. And so I think that is definitely shifting, and I think it will continue to shift, but I certainly think that we have work to do. And I certainly think that we have to be open and transparent with, our younger generation about what life really looks like. And so I'm really very intentional about sharing, like, the struggles and the challenges, and, I did not wake up like this. Like, I want to be very clear. Like, if you see a picture on social media, that is not what I look like when I woke up. And, so other people don't compare, because so many of us look at people and we're like, that's what people see as perfect, or that's what people see as ideal, and they don't see all the airbrushing and the filters and, the work that was done by the scenes to create this image. And so I do think that we still have a duty to help our younger generation, know that living their best life, #living their best life, doesn't always have to be perfect. It's just, it is what you make it. And that starts with accepting who you are and the beauty that comes with that.
Yes, accepting who you are, and like you stated, being authentic, right? Being authentic.
Absolutely. It is like the greatest compliment, I think, now, to be able to meet somebody, because, we establish all these relationships on social media now. And I just love it when I can meet somebody on social media and then meet them off of social media, and they are the exact same person. I love it. Absolutely. Like, I can tell it's you. I look at you. I know it's you. I've walked right by people that I've known for years on social media because they don't look anything like their profile picture. And I don't think that people, I think that people see through that now. I think they're looking for that authentic and organic and, transparent kind of feel for people, even if you're in the public eye. I think that they embrace that now. They embrace the flaws and the the technical difficulties and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to necessarily always being polished and always being on. I certainly think there's a place for it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it has to be all the time.
Yes, I love that. And you are the CEO and founder of Nikki Woods Media, so please tell us more about your amazing corporation. You have helped make a lot of people. So tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I love it. I mean, it's like I started it before I resigned from Tom, because I really recognized that there was a need. There was a need to learn the media. There was a need for especially female minority entrepreneurs to get the visibility that they needed to build a business. And, before it's like, you can have a business, but like if you still have a job, like it's still a hobby, I think. And people may disagree, but I can tell you that, I was like, I thought I was golden because I had built this business, but it's really easy to build a business when you still get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And so when that's gone, the real struggle begins. And that first year, I was ready to take a job at Walmart just for it to be over, because it was just so much work and uncertainty, and I was Nikki Wood, not saying that to be egotistical, but like I had made a name for myself. I had worked at building a platform. So I think about all the people who have a service, have a gift, who want to be an entrepreneur and have no idea what it takes, the amount of contacts, the amount of visibility that you really need to build a sustainable business. And it breaks my heart, because then people are, feel that entrepreneurship isn't for them, and it's not that. It's sometimes we just need to plan a little bit better. But Nikki Woods Media kind of fills that gap. And helps people with the visibility that they need to really build that business that's going to sustain them. Because even now, almost 3 years into being a full-time entrepreneur, there are months like I'm like looking at the kids like, look, y'all. I don't know what's going to happen this month, but peanut butter is on sale. So, it's just a challenge, and it really has been kind of like, the biggest faith walk for me. Not only in that, the universe always provides and takes care of you, but the faith in myself that I have everything I need already to be successful. and that no matter what sometimes it looks like on the outside, that everything is still going to be okay. And I think that that's a lot of that's a discussion that we don't always have. I think as entrepreneurs, we try to make it seem like it's always great and we're living our best life and we've taken control and we've got this freedom, and it's not always that. And that's okay, but I think that we have to be honest about it so that people who come behind us, have a realistic view of it and can be prepared for some of the ups and downs that are absolutely guaranteed to come, no matter who you are.
I'm glad that you're shining light on that. So what would you say to that listener that's still doing their 9-to-5 in entrepreneurship? You like you said, you have to be prepared and in a good place before you before you go full-fledged in there. So, like you said, a lot of people just want to jump right into it, but you probably should stay with your 9-to-5 until you're at a good place where you can do it all, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know what? I honestly think that because everybody's like, well, take the leap, and it's things will happen on the way down, and I'm like, yeah, the only thing that really happens is that you hit the ground. So I'm sure some people can be very successful taking that leap, but I don't think that's the majority of us, and I certainly wasn't one of them either. And so I planned very carefully, to be honest. I mean, I made the transition. It was slow, and it was steady, and it was strategic, and it still wasn't enough. So my thought is that, put the plan in place and start transitioning. I think at some point you do have to pull the trigger because you can't, just like they say, you can't worship two idols. I mean, you can't really give your all to two different things and not totally burn out. So at one point you're just going to have to say, okay, I'm at this point where, I'm not going to be homeless. I'm going to be able to feed my kids. I may not be able to go on vacation, but we're going to be okay. And then make the switch, but come up with a plan first. Most of us get health care through our jobs, and then when I try to get health care outside of it, they're like, okay, $1,200 a month. I'm like, that's a mortgage payment. Like, nobody's sick. Like, what? Really? And so I think there's a lot of things that we just don't properly prepare for. And so I say make a plan. It absolutely can be done. And, you can learn how to be a great entrepreneur, but I would not just say, I have an idea, let me quit my job and pursue my passion. I wouldn't suggest that at all.
So for our entrepreneurs that are listening that are still doing both, make sure you plan for it, strategically plan for it.
Yeah, and don't feel bad if you start and then you have to go back and do something else. Success is not like this straight line to the top. I mean, a lot of us take detours along the way. And so, don't compare what your journey looks like to what somebody else posts on social media, because a lot of times they're not posting what their real journey is like, or you didn't see them in the beginning. Like, you see them now and you're like, oh, they got it going on, but you didn't see 10 years before. When it was a challenging, place for them. So, I mean, own your journey and make it work for you, and don't beat yourself up because it doesn't happen the way that, you envision it or you see it happen for somebody else.
Thank you for shining light on that, because I think a lot of people need to really hear the real conversations, right? These are real conversations that need to be had when you're deciding on those moves and understanding that everybody's journey is different. That is so key.
Absolutely.
So you have positioned your students and clients to be seen by over 873 million people and generated over 8 figures in sales from the media. Would you please tell us more about these amazing accomplishments and, the journey of how you did it?
Well, my daddy told me if it didn't make money, it didn't make sense. And so media is great, but we always, I think, whenever we do something, we want to make sure that it's positively going to impact our revenue. And so I think a lot of people want to be on, these national shows like Oprah and CNN, but they don't have a plan for how they're going to leverage that appearance. So sure, you can be seen by 1 million people, but if you have no way to funnel or direct those people into purchasing your services, then you're just seen by 1 million people. It's just really cool to tell at Thanksgiving when the family gathers, but it's not like it's going to impact your business. And so, one of the things that I've worked really hard on is making sure that all of my clients not only are set up to get the media, but they're also set up to monetize the media, and I think that's very important. I think one thing that people, if I could share anything about how to get more media for your business, the one thing is to just make sure you're focusing on the value that you bring. So we're always, like I wrote a new book, or I have a new service, or, I want people to buy this, and that's really not the way that it works. When you go to a producer, when I was producing for Tom, it is not my job to sell your book. My job is to make sure that I'm providing value for the audience. So it really is just like a little mindset shift where you stop focusing on the sale of the book and start focusing on sharing the value that's within the book. And once you do that, then producers are like, oh, like my listeners are going to learn how to, to be a millionaire in 2020 because Ashley wrote this book giving them the steps. And if you focus on giving, not everything in the book, but giving some that will give people an idea of how to get started, they're going to go buy the book. But if you focus on just selling the book, then it turns people, off. And so I think that when you try to pitch a producer or a media personality, and the first thing you say is, I have a new book, that's going on sale, I mean, it's that light switch goes off. But if, your book is How to Get Rich in 2020, and you share, I'm going to share with your audience the top 3 ways to get rich in 2020, guaranteed your book is going to get mentioned, but you're providing that value that any producer is going to feel good about sharing with their audience. And so those are some of the things that I work on. And like I said, it's simple, but you would be surprised at how many people get in their own way because they're so focused on that sale instead of just, as we said earlier, providing the value and being of service. Because at the end of the day, that's always going to impact your bottom line.
I love that, and you're right. People want to get on. People want to get on CNN and BET and all
Girl,
that.
They want to talk to Don Lemon.
I'm like, you're bringing value.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's a process, just like anything else. It's like people, sign with me, and then they want, they're like wonder why they're not on the Today Show the next day, and I'm like, it's a process. And so many of us skip all this valuable media in between, getting from no media to CNN. So there are podcasts that have as many listeners as major cities, millions. And so they may be more beneficial. And let me just say, I love online radio and I love podcasts because most of them are so super focused on one particular audience that you can automatically find shows that are full of your client or potential clients. And you can't say that about CNN. So if you're a real estate guru, there are a ton of podcasts that just talk about how to build wealth through real estate. You are much better served to go on there where your ideal client is the entire audience as opposed to going to see on CNN where it may be 1% of that audience that may even be interested, and even in that whole 1% is they're going to be interested in you. So don't skip podcasts. Don't skip local media. Don't skip print. I mean, like I said, being on CNN is great, but it doesn't always impact your bottom line like you think it is. So definitely look for alternatives before counting yourself out because Oprah didn't call you.
I love it. Do not skip the small things, right? Do not skip it. I love the quote that I think Pam Perry says it a lot. Do not despise small beginnings, right? So don't skip the low.
Absolutely. It's like everybody wants to be the little fish in the big pond, but I'm like, hey, I would rather be, top dog in a little bitty group than, to go straight through it. It is much easier to be to get famous at home before it is to move on. And it's all kind of like a snowball effect. So, shine in the local media, hone your interviewing skills. That's the other thing. A lot of people think that you can just show up and talk, and it's not necessarily that easy. So make sure you're ready for CNN before you get CNN, and you can do that by doing podcast interviews and online radio shows and local media. Not that they're less than CNN, but, it's definitely a warmer environment. It's like, learning how to play basketball at high school before you go to the NBA. It's all important, but it's a process as well.
It's a process, embracing the process. And I love
Embrace the process.
You keep talking about the process.
Absolutely.
Our listeners that listen, the process is necessary. We have to go through the process before you get to the result. The accomplishments and all the accolades. You got to embrace the process. And I think a lot of people don't want to do that. They want the accolades. They don't want the process.
They don't want the process, but it's like they tell you the devil is in the details. I mean, it's like there's so many ways businesses fail just because we don't pay attention to the little things. It's like the one word I hated when I first started as an entrepreneur was systems. I was like, I don't need systems. Let's just go do it. And then I'm like, oh, my God, a year later, I was like, I need me some systems. Like, we got to figure this out. And so, it's not sexy. It's not necessarily glamorous, but it absolutely is necessary for anything in life. I mean, we have systems for everything. And so entrepreneurs need them as well. And so you have to be focused on the little things as well as the big things, because little things will cause your business to fail if you're not on top of it.
Absolutely. And so you've built multiple tables for yourself, Nikki, and I ask all of my guests this question. How did you create your seat at the table? I know you pretty much bought many a tables, built many of them. So I would love for you to tell us how you did it.
So I think it's interesting because if you look at like my career, media, radio and TV is really still a part of the entertainment business, and the entertainment business is still really male driven. And so if you look at the people that I had to, quote unquote, manage, especially like while I was in Tom, I mean, it was like Al Sharpton and Don Lemon and Roland Martin and D.L. Hughley. It's like all of these really powerful, Tom Joyner, all these really powerful men. And I think the first thing that helped was that I was really comfortable with who I was and what I could do. Like, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't the best at what I did, because I worked really, really hard at it. And so owning that was really important because, they will bark at you. It's like, when a dog smells fear, it's like they will bark at you to see what would happen. And so it was really important for me from day one to walk in just knowing who I was and owning the value that I bring to the table. Obviously being connected to any of these people, Sherry Shepard and Kim Whitley. I think of all the people we had on the show that I had to, quote, unquote, manage. Being connected to any of them brings value to me, but I also had to realize the value that I brought to them. And I think once you own that, you can comfortably manage your seat at the table. And you also have to realize people are not going to pull the chair out for you and ask you to sit down. It's just not that kind of a world. And so knowing who you are, like I said, and really having a good sense of what you bring, the value that you offer helps with you walking right up to that table and sitting down. The other thing that I was really glad that I didn't lose was that, because we are women, and I was really glad that I didn't lose that softer, compassionate side that I think that women bring more so than men most times, because it's needed. And I think people overlook that. I mean, it's great to be assertive and aggressive and, trying to get all you can, but you also have to, when you're managing a group of people, remember that you're managing a group of people. You have to have that compassionate side. And I'm glad that was not worked out of me because of the stressful environment I was in. So, I'm proud to be a woman. I'm proud to be a mother. I'm proud to be a nurturer. And I think all of those qualities are necessary. And so many women feel, I think, that they have to lose those in order to claw their way to the top. And I don't think that you do.
I love that. Because like you stated, nobody's going to give you a seat, right? You got to create your own. You got to bring value. You got to serve. Right? And I think a lot of people
I would be in the hallway. Right? I would be in the hallway making sandwiches. I'm telling you. So you have got to really just own it. And I will tell you, if you do that, people are not going to try to tell you anything different. I mean, they respond to that confidence. They respond to your own sense of self-worth. I mean, they're not going to disrespect you if you don't disrespect yourself. And so, you have to know who you are and, like I said, kind of set the tone from the very beginning. I mean, it's like, I was like, we can laugh all day, but at the end of the day, I'm in charge. Because I have to answer to a whole bunch of people, and I'm in charge. You have to own that. And just piggybacking on that, I think that a lot of times, a lot of us want that responsibility, but we don't want to be accountable for it. And so the other thing I learned at Tom, because really the buck did stop with me. And so if something went wrong, it was my fault. If something went right, I got the accolades, but I had to accept both of those. I can't just accept it when it goes right and then blame other people when it goes wrong. And I think that you find that a lot. People just want the big title, they want the perks, they want the expense account. But when everything goes left, they want to blame everybody else. And you can't be a good leader and have that attitude.
I love that. I love that you're just shining light on that because it's so, so important. And I think a lot of people forget that, right? They forget that when they get upset when somebody doesn't invite them to the table. And I mean, it goes from there instead of you thinking about, okay, if they don't, then build your own. Create your own.
Create your own and accept responsibility and own that. Because I think once you own that, then you can make a different decision. Because people can't make the choices for you. If they tell you to sit in the hallway and you decide to sit in the hallway, sitting in the hallway is your choice. They didn't make you do it. And so once you own that maybe that wasn't the right decision, you can make a different one.
So what did failure teach you on your journey?
What does what?
What did failure teach you on your journey?
What is that?
I love it.
No, seriously, what teach me on my journey?
Yeah, what did failure teach you on your journey?
Oh, failure. I thought you said something totally different. I was like, child, I don't know. So I think that failure taught me that people fail, one, and that once again it's your choice. If you fail at something, as we all do, you can either stay in that failure or you can try again. And I think that one of my best qualities and my most annoying qualities is that I'm extremely persistent. And I really do believe if I have something that I want to do and somebody tells me no, then they're just not the right person to do it with me. Not that it can't be done, but they're just not the right one. But I think so many people are scared of failure and what it says about them, that they stay in that failure, and they let that failure then define the next years, decades, end of their life. And so it's important to let people make mistakes. It's important to, to make mistakes of your own and then be transparent about it. Like, okay, we tried it. It didn't work. Like, now what are we going to do? Like, how can we do it differently? And unfortunately, people don't accept their own failures, so they don't accept others. And so it's hard, especially in the workplace, to feel like failure's okay. But everybody fails. It's like, I love the analogy, and I'm not sure who says it all the time, but they talk about when babies learn to walk. Like, nobody tells a baby when they try to walk and they fall down, okay, you're stupid, you can't do it, you failed, it's over. Like, who says that? And so why do we say it to ourselves? Like, if we stumble or something doesn't work, why do we tell ourselves, okay, you were too stupid to do it, or you didn't have the right resources, or you didn't have the right people around you, or you didn't have enough money? We say that to ourselves all the time. So then we tell ourselves just to go sit down and do something else that's safe because we don't want to fail. But I fail a lot. I fail a lot, and I really I try to tell my kids, fail fast, like, get it out of the way and learn what it takes to fail and then get up, figure it out, and try again. What did they say? Who invented the light bulb, Ashley? Was it Thomas Jefferson? Who was it? Ben Franklin. Yeah. He tried like 99 times before the doggone thing actually worked. So, like, imagine for all of us if he had given up after the 58th time. God knows where we would be. So it's like you just have to keep trying. And you have to know, when to pivot. It's like, I had a client that came to me one time, and they had written this business plan, and it just wasn't working. It just was not working. But they were determined that they were going to follow all the steps in this business plan because they had taken so much time to write this business plan. And so sometimes it's like we would rather go down with the ship than just course correct. And so, a lot of times with, when things aren't working, it's just a tweak. It's just a different direction. It's just doing something a little bit differently instead of being so committed to that original idea that you literally go down with the ship. So failure has taught me to try again and to keep trying. It's like when I wanted to go to I wanted to work at WGCI in Chicago, which was like the #1 urban station at that time. And I was in Boston, and I hated it. I was at this sun-up to sundown station, which was literally a sun-up. It's like they went on when the sun went up, and they went down when the sun went down. They went off. And so I wanted to come to Chicago. I wanted to be a GCI. And I literally wrote them and sent them an air check, which is what you sound like on the air. It's like your demo reel. Every week. Never got a positive response. I always got that form letter, we're not hiring, we don't have any positions, yada, yada, yada. And so when I left Boston, I can't even remember if I quit or got fired, but I was on my way to Jacksonville, Florida, and I just decided to stop in Chicago because my sister was living there. And I was like, what the heck? I'm going to go on up there to GCI, take a tour, see the studio. And I met the program director, which is the guy who's over the on-air talent. And I told him, I was like, I've been writing you every week, sending you a demo. And he's like, we have never heard of you. So I was like, okay. And so, luckily I had a demo. He's like, let's listen to it. And I got hired that day. And I had to call Jacksonville. In fact, we called them together and told them I wasn't coming because I was staying in Chicago. But it's like, imagine if I had just, taken, those form letters and there's no position and just decided not to even try, not to even say anything. It's like my whole career would have been different. And so, sometimes a no is a not now, but it definitely does not mean go sit in the corner and not do anything else.
Right.
So I think failure, failure is good. I think it toughens your skin. I think it teaches you, to be, self-reliant and creative and to ask more questions and to learn different skills. But I think that it definitely has become, this sin almost. And people, oh, he failed. Or he tried to start a business and it didn't work, and it's somebody who never, ever had the courage to start a business that we're listening to tell us that, we're a failure. So it's like if you don't try, you won't fail, and sometimes if you won't fail, you won't find the right path. So you've got to get out there and fail and then get up and try something different.
I love it because it's all a lesson. So, Nikki Woods, you are very, very successful. So what did success teach you on your journey?
That it doesn't mean anything. That at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. It's like, it's so funny. It's like when I left Tom, I had developed all of these relationships and had all these friendships and, and it's kind of like they tell you you're as good as your last hit. It's kind of like that, and it's I think that, one thing that my parents taught me was like, really don't define yourself by, what you do or what you have in the bank account. I mean, it really is who you are as a person. And so, success is great. And I think that it means that you showed that you loved something and you put in the work, and radio was never a job to me because I absolutely loved it. I think it's a part of who I am. But it doesn't define who I am. And so I think success taught me that, if you really want to be a successful person, like you're good and you're honest and you give back and you help others. It's like those qualities. It doesn't, it's not defined by a dollar sign or a title or, whether or not you have the corner office or, those sorts of things. And I think that it's like, it's so funny because, I mean, I'm sure you experience the same thing when somebody else reads your bio. You're kind of like looking around like, who is this amazing chick?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Wow, like she's really done some things. And then you realize they're talking about you and you're like, oh, I've just been trying to live my life and do good things and provide value. So success to me means I raised productive children, and I helped where I could, and I remember all of those things you learn in Bible study growing up. That you just treat people well, and you live a good life. Successful to me is having people that love me and having a lot of people to love. It's obviously it's nice to make money. I mean, we're a dollar-driven society, so I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to make money, but I think that a lot of us lose our way sometimes, and we focus so much on, like what's in our bank account, we forget that, how to treat people and how to be good to others.
Yes, I love that. How to treat people and be good to others, right? Reach back and pull forward, and Nikki Woods has done that. Yes, she has. So I just want to, as I stated before we started this show, just, kudos and commend you again. It's an honor to have you at this table tonight.
No, it is my honor to be here. I mean, I Googled you, girl. So I know you out there doing some things, too. Like my son told me the other day, stop telling people to Google you. They'll ask me who I am, and I'll be like, just go Google me.
That's right. If you don't know who Nikki Woods is, I don't know. You might need to go back and figure it out. Yes.
But, so I applaud you as well, and I am so appreciative of this conversation and just having the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. I always love these kind of conversations because they help me, one, they keep me motivated, but I also hope that they impact other people as well.
I'm going to say I'm humbled to have that from Nikki Woods, so I'm humbled, and thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, my dear.
And what can we expect from you in this year of 2020? We in a new decade, a new year. What can we expect from the amazing Nikki Woods this year? Girl, I'm trying to get my children out of my house. That's like my main goal.
No, you know what? I have really I think at the heart of who I am, it's all about telling stories in one form or the other. And so even in radio and, when I was, doing the news, it was all about that communication and telling stories. It's why I write books. It's why I help other people write books. And so I have really been enjoying the TV development space. And so that is what I have been really spending a lot of time doing, and, pitching shows to major networks and finding other people that have great stories and great gifts to share. And so I just actually, Ashley, received a talent development deal myself for a talk show. So I am really excited that we'll be spending – thank you. I'm really excited we'll be spending the rest of the next couple of months at least planning that and hopefully having something ready to go by the end of 2020 for the new season. So that is where my focus is right now.
Well, super congratulations in advance for sharing that with us. I know it's some things that you probably haven't shared yet. So I cannot wait to see all the great things that you're going to birth in this new year and new decade. Because I know it's going to be
and I look forward to learning more about you. I mean, I'm glad that we connected, and if there's ever anything that I can do, you know how to reach me, and I would be glad to help.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And will you please tell our listeners how they can follow you, support you, and connect with you on all social media platforms?
So I'm Nikki Woods everywhere. My mom says it's easier to tweet me than it is to call me. So I love connecting with people on social media, but I love meeting people in person too. So you can always check out my website, nikkywoodsmedia.com, and see if I'm going to be somewhere near you. We can, meet up, have coffee or whatever. But in the meantime, if you just, send me a note on Twitter or whatever, I'd be love to connect and learn more about you and see if there's any way that I can be of service.
So for our listeners that are listening, Nikki Woods is definitely somebody for you to know and connect with. So make sure you reach out to her, support her, all the great things that she's going to continue to do. Again, Nikki, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come to the table. This has been a powerful interview, and I can't wait to invite you back to the table.
I would love it. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing to get to know you and working with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Me too.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. So I would like to give a special thanks to my intern, Sarah, from Tennessee State University, and my intern, Vontaria, from Winston-Salem State University. You all may follow me on Facebook at Ashley Little and on Instagram at _Ashley A. Little. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Creating Your Seat at the Table, where Ashley speaks with corporate professionals, celebrities, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers who are transitioning or have transitioned to entrepreneurship.